Over to you, Anita.
Thank you, and thank you everybody for joining us once again. As Alessandra said, we're going to have a look at energy efficient lights, and actually energy efficient light bulbs, probably more correctly as well. So first of all, a little bit on the evolution of the light bulb. Okay, so I think it was back in about 1880 when Thomas Edison patented his incandescent light bulb. So these were the first ones, and this is certainly the bulb that I grew up with. So whenever these bulbs blew, the little filament inside them sort of broke, and then when you shake the light bulb, it rattled around and you knew it was broken. So you could have got them in all kinds of shapes and sizes for all kinds of light fittings. But pretty much now these bulbs are defunct, and they're basically, unless there's a very good reason, it's not something that people would be looking for now. And in fact, I had to go on the internet to get the one for my little display here, so I did. Next then would be the light bulb, and there's still quite a few of these around. It was a step improvement because they'd have a little capsule inside them, so the filament was contained within the little capsule, and in the capsule there was little gases that kind of extended the life of the filament as well, so they didn't blow quite so often, and they used a little bit less energy as well. So there's still quite a lot of these about, and in fact the little spotlights are the little GU10 ones, the sort of click-in ones. I got about 72 of those whenever I moved into my house that needed to replace and upgrade it to something more energy efficient. But so they're the next sort of step in the evolution of a light bulb, if you want. Next then came the compact fluorescent lights, or the CFLs, they're shortened to. And these kind of came about pretty much in the 70s with the oil crisis then. The main benefit of these were that they were 25% more efficient. They used 25% less energy than your incandescent light bulbs. So they were pretty much, until fairly recently, I still had like a long one of these in my garage, but back in the 70s then they came up with a way of sort of wrapping them around and making them more compact so you could put them into a standard light fitting. So when I started off in energy efficiency, these were the bulbs that we were giving out to people and encouraging people to use. And occasionally you get comments like, oh, that bulb's really big, it's going to stick out my lampshade, or I don't like coils, it doesn't look like an ordinary lamp bulb. That kind of moved on, they got smaller, they got more compact, and they covered them as well, so they looked more like a standard light bulb. But they still did have a couple of drawbacks, and the main one was that whenever you switched them on, there was a fraction of a second of a delay until the light actually came on, and then they did take about 60 seconds for them to warm up to their brightest light as well. But they were still, if you accepted that, you had 25% saving on the CFLs. But whenever the light emitting diodes, the LEDs, come in, well, these were the panacea. And this is brilliant, because the evolution of the light bulb was that there was instantaneous bright light, none of those drawbacks. And the little LEDs, I mean, the little red one there, I mean, that's like a little single LED, and you probably still have those on things like your immersion switch or your cooker switch or something like that. So what they did actually is they sort of like put lots of these into the light bulbs to give a brighter light. And you can sometimes actually see the little yellow dots of them if you look inside an LED. So the main benefit of these is the efficiency of them, though, because they used only basically 10% of the light that the incandescent lights done. So they were much more energy efficient. And there is a LED replacement for every type of light bulb and every type of fitting. So again, unless there's a very good reason, LEDs are kind of what you should be using now. And they can come in some beautiful designs as well, almost like art rather than actually just a light bulb. But we're going to look today at the four kind of basic light bulbs and do a little bit of a comparison across the different light bulbs. So we're going to look at the incandescent, then the halogen, the CFL, and the LEDs then. So what I want you to think about first of all is we've kind of got used to think, or we used to think about a bulb in terms of its wattage. But I want to forget watts and think about lumens, because what we want from a bulb is not how much energy it uses to identify it that way, but actually to identify it by how much light you're getting from it. And that's lumens. So watts gives us our power consumption, so how much energy it's using, but brightness is talked about in lumens. So if you think about the first one, the incandescent light bulb, okay, this one is a 60-watt bulb, but it gives about 710 lumens of brightness. Okay, so I've picked bulbs then to compare with that are pretty much in around that 700 to 800 range. Maybe didn't do quite so well on the halogen one, but just for a comparison across. So the incandescent bulb uses 60 watts of energy. Um, the halogen 42, the CFL 15, and the LED only 8, but still giving you that brightness of 800 lumens. So I'll just very quickly go through the light bulbs that I have here. So the first one being our incandescent light bulb, so it'd be quite bright light. So they are comparable across each other for the light, but for this one, whenever I put my hand up to it, I can actually instantly feel the heat coming off the light bulb, and that's wasted energy, because what we want is light, not heat from it. And in fact, I wouldn't even touch the bulb because it gets that hot. The next one is our halogen light bulb, and again you can still feel heat coming off of that, so you can as well. So again, wasted energy, but you can see the little capsule. Maybe you can't see it, but I can see the little capsule all lit up within the actual bulb there. A comparable light. This then is our compact fluorescent, and again it's pretty cool to the touch, and see it will warm up over time, but it's still, but this one I won't be afraid to actually touch. And then the brightness from this one, again, nice bright light, but completely cool to the touch. You could touch that one even when it's been on for a good while. So those are my little demo in terms of the light bulbs, and they all have comparable brightness, in a room. But if we move on then to look at the information that you would get to be able to pick your light bulb, all of the information is contained in the lighting facts on the actual box of your bulb. So if you're standing in the shop and you're trying to decide which bulb to go for, and one's a couple of quid dearer, there's certain things that you should look out for in order to be able to decide that actually maybe spending that extra couple of euros is actually worthwhile in the long run for you. So definitely all the information is on the label, and they also rate light bulbs in the same way they rate your appliances in your house as well. And that labeling system has changed recently. So a bulb that would have been maybe an A+ is now rated as an F. So they're getting more scope for technology, getting more and more efficient all the time. And you can tell the new labeling because they have those little QR codes that you can scan as well to get further information about them. The first thing I would say that whenever you're looking at your LED light bulbs is to look at the color, because they actually come in different colors, and even the standard white bulbs have a warm white or they have a cool white. The cool white ones tended to be whenever LED bulbs came out first, and you can kind of have like almost a bluish tinge from them. So if you look at the scale there, so up in the 1000 Kelvin as it's recorded in, right down to, or up to I should say, probably the 7000 Kelvin being the blue end of the spectrum. Most people in their homes and their sitting room in places like that like a warm white, somewhere between sort of 2700 to 3000 Kelvin, like it's a nice warm white, and what we're kind of used to from our incandescent lights, that same kind of tones and colours from it. But other people actually prefer cooler tones, and especially in areas like work surfaces, or workrooms, or laundry rooms, places like that. They may like, and it gives you a cooler light that you can kind of like maybe mimics closer to what daylight is actually like. So it can be quite easy to pick up the wrong box, but this information is quite clearly said on all the boxes. It'll give you an indication of the color of the bulb, and quite often it'll say quite clearly warm white or cool white. So quick check on that to make sure you're picking up the one that you want. And also I would say that if you're looking at changing a number of light bulbs in your home, then pick one to begin with. Go home, put it in, check it's actually what you want it to be, and then go back and before you make that big investment and getting a number of light bulbs. So the next thing I want to look at then is actually the cost of running that light bulb in your home. So as I said before, they do vary across the technologies in terms of the amount of energy used, and that's a direct relationship then to the cost that you're having for that. So to work this out, we've looked at 1 year's energy costs for each of these individual light bulbs that we have on our display. We're taking an average of 2.7 hours a day. So, and of course, in the wintertime, you'll have the lights on a little bit longer in some rooms, and then, you know, in the summertime, not so much. And we've taken a price of 35 cents per unit of electricity. And I do know that some of you are probably paying maybe even 10 cents more than that at the minute, but we're trying to sort of moderate that a bit in the hope that energy prices will stabilize a little bit as well. So not putting out something now that's completely kind of like at the top end of the scale of what people are paying. So if we look at our incandescent bulb, we can see that that 60-watt bulb is going to cost us about sort of 20 euros to run for the year. The halogen a bit cheaper, but it's saving there. You're talking about 14.50 euros. The CFL a good bit better at just over 5 euros, and then the LED bulb would be about 2.76 euros. So that gives us a LED replacement cost then. So if you were taking out an incandescent bulb, you'd save about 17 or 18 euros by putting in an LED instead. The halogen 11 or 12 euros. The CFL 2.41 euros. So that gives you then an idea of kind of like the payback time for you. So if you were looking at the cost of those individual bulbs, you say, you know, so if you're standing in the shop and you're looking at something that's costing you 7 euros versus maybe 3 euros, you can see that actually by paying the 7 euros, the little bit extra, you've recouped the cost, that extra cost within its very first year of operation. So you have, and even with this, the CFLs, if the bulb has already blown, then you're just looking at the additional 2 euros extra to get that bulb replaced. And again, that will pay for itself pretty quickly, usually within the first year of operation. So the LEDs are very well worth one. And when I said it saves yourself in the first year of operation, when it comes to LEDs, you could have 15 to 20 years of that bulb actually working because they have much longer lifetimes than all of the other bulbs. So your incandescent bulb, for example, will only give you around about 1,000 hours of lifetime, whereas the LED bulbs could easily give you 15,000 hours of lifetime. And that translates then really into the number of bulbs that you would need over that 15-year lifetime of the LED if you were trying to make an equivalent of it. So you would need to replace your incandescent bulb. You know, need 13 or you'd need 14 bulbs in effect to cover the lifetime of what that one LED bulb would give you. And if nothing else, the hassle of changing the light bulb, you know, especially if you have bulbs in places that are a little bit inaccessible or difficult to get to, then it makes a lot of sense to have something that you don't have to replace more than once every 15 or 20 years. So we can use this information then again to work out the lifetime costs of the bulbs. Now there's a little asterisk there because again we're just taking it with at that 35 cents. I don't have my crystal ball with me, so I can't tell you what the cost of energy is actually going to do over that 15 years, or even the cost of the light bulbs as well either. But if we wanted to work out that 15-year lifetime cost, you can see that the LED is going to, including the cost of the bulb, is going to work at about 48 euros, whereas the CFL 85 and the halogen then 239, which would give you then savings that if you put in your LED or take out an incandescent halogen or CFL, quite significant savings there of the incandescent bulb of 289. Or if you had a few halogens that you could take out, each one would save you then, by replacement with an LED, would save you about 191 euros. So quite significant savings over the lifetime of those LED bulbs that last considerably longer. So I just wanted to go through one worked example. So I have 6 of these little spotlights in my sitting room. And when I took out those, what were 50-watt bulbs, they're GU10 bulbs, and replaced them with a 4.6-watt LED bulb, again with considerably longer lifetime. I looked at what compare what the cost would be for running that one bulb for a year. So 17 odd euros for the halogen one versus €1.59 for the LED. And of course there's 6 in the room, so that multiplies it up quite considerably. So over the year, the bulbs will cost me over 100 euros to run, whereas if I have the LEDs in place, then it's only it's just under 10 euros. And then I looked at the investment costs as well. So I can get a box of 6 LED GU10s for about €20. So I've worked in again the lifetime costs and the lifetime savings there. So you can see there's quite considerable difference. So if you're standing in the shop and you're thinking, do I go halogen or do I go LED? Then keep in mind this slide and the potential savings that you can make over the 15 years. So just finishing off then, I just want to say that if we could encourage every household in Ireland to change out just 2 light bulbs, it would be enough to save 36,800 homes basically powered for a year. We'd save enough electricity to power that number of homes completely for a year. Excuse me. And the carbon emissions that would have been avoided would have been enough, would have been absorbed by planting and basically having 63,620 acres of forest absorbing carbon for the year as well. So quite significant in terms of energy saving and the environmental potential to help as well. So my challenge to you today really then is to go home and have a look and see if there are potentially 2 it's based on the 50-watt halogen bulbs, but see if there's 2 potential bulbs in your home that you could upgrade to LEDs. And of course, start with the rooms where you use the lights the most, where your biggest potential savings are. Okay, so that's everything for today on light bulbs, and hopefully there'll be a couple of questions. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Anita. Yes, pop questions into the Q&A box. I haven't seen any come in yet. Just to say as well, we included the incandescent bulb in this really just as a point of comparison, because you shouldn't be, they're actually not available for sale officially in Ireland. You'd have to go on the internet and find them in a less official manner. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, only for display purposes.
Yeah, only for display purposes, just to show the brightness. Yes, and actually that may help with Aoife's question here. Are the government thinking of banning everything but LED at any point? I don't know whether they're looking to ban others at this point, but obviously they already have. The ban came down from the EU on incandescent, and I'm not sure whether that might happen in the future, but it might well do at some point when there's a clear replacement for every bulb type.
Yeah, as the technology moves on, then it'll become, you know, this is what has to be put in place.
Yeah, is any other questions for anyone? I think the one of the points I think about the color temperature is quite important, because when we first got LED bulbs in the market, people didn't like them because they seemed too harsh, and I think that was because originally you tended to get just the cool white.
Yeah.
Now that you can get, you know, the varieties, and actually you can also get some that have remote control, and you can actually change them to different colors. I think it makes a big difference, and that can kind of, you know, you can get that ambience you got with incandescent, but with much less energy use. Okay, I'm just looking down to see any more questions. Thank you for the helpful info. Okay, I think that's probably it. I don't think there's any other questions coming in, but so thank you very much, Anita.
I think I have one more point would maybe be on the you know, on going for the quality of light bulb as well.
Oh yes.
Certainly, you know, I've bought sort of some cheaper brands in the past as well, and ended up with them only lasting me a few years, you know, whereas I've, you know, good brands, well-named, recognized brands that I've got that are going in excess of 14 years, you know, so I think that's definitely, you know, looking at the quality of the bulb as well is well worth considering whenever you're paying that extra couple of euros.
Yes, and actually interesting, you know, a few years of life would have been quite good for some incandescent bulb in a high passage area, in a high use area, but actually it's not acceptable for an LED. We want those 15-year lifetimes for those.
Absolutely.
What brands would you suggest? I'm not sure we can endorse brands.
I can't.
But just go for if it's a brand you recognize from buying, basically brands you recognize are probably better to go for than something that you know is completely unknown to you.
Yeah, if you're in, say that if you're in the supermarket and it's the supermarket own brand, that's probably not the top of the range technology, as opposed to something a company that specializes in lighting.
Yeah, or if it's from your the pound shop, or
excuse me,
you know,
yes,
or
indeed,
off the internet, so, you know, just Okay, so there's another thank you here saying that didn't realise that LED bulbs save quite as much.
Yes, yes, I know, and I sometimes people see people in the supermarket, you know, and they're weighing them up and they're putting back the LEDs because it's a couple of euros more expensive, but what they save you is so much more significant.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't go for the cheap bulbs anymore.
So someone made point here about all old lamps and all light bulbs should be sent to appropriate recycling. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Check out your
good point.
local community centre actually, and see what their recommendation is on light bulbs.
Yeah, they usually have a specific section for all of your compact fluorescents and everything, and your LEDs as well.
I've got a question here. In general, are LED strip lighting expensive to run, like the type used for the back of TV or around rooms?
If they're LED, they shouldn't be. You know,
Shouldn't be, yeah.
every single bulb will have written on it the wattage of it, so
Yeah.
you can do a pretty simple calculation. In fact, we've provided some tools in past Weekend Wisdoms, to help you calculate out how much energy that's using.
This question here: can that infographic on savings be made available for green teams to issue to staff? Yeah, we can take that. We can take that out. The one on 36,000. Oh yeah. Yep. The one on 36,800 houses.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Great.
We'll do a poster on it. How about that?
Okay, thank you everyone, and thank you, Anita, for a very informative presentation.
My pleasure.
Okay, bye everyone.
Bye bye.